Rise and Energize Her Morning Show is brought to you by Mogul TV Global Network, the #1 streaming TV network for positive programming in the Mid-Atlantic. To learn how you can energize your business and brand with media, visit www.themogulchannel.com.
She's that uncommon wife, divine set apart. Moves with that power, yeah, she leads with her heart. Soft, but she's solid, love wrapped in light. Black woman magic.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Affirmative Action. If you're new here or been following us for a while, this is not the affirmative action associated with discrimination, but where we affirm the actions, highlight and talk about those in our community and abroad who are doing great things. As you know, for the month of April, we talked about everything wellness, mental health care, menopause, as well as today we're going to talk about skincare and some things that we could be doing as we prepare for the summer months and this heat going up to 80, 90 degrees and above. And so today I am so excited to have Dr. Jessica Mercer-Bazemore, who is a dermatologist in Georgia, on with us today. And she is going to talk about some general skincare as well as give us some tips for the heat.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
Hello, Dr. Mercer-Bazemore. Thank you for taking out time today. I know you have a very busy schedule to be with us. So I just did a brief introduction for our viewers, just telling them the field that you're in. But I'm going to give you this moment to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice area and what things you specialize in.
Yes, I'm Dr. Jessica Mercer, and I practice in the Atlanta area with 4 locations around Metro Atlanta in Brookhaven, Snellville, Loganville, and Brazelton. And I am a board-certified dermatologist and dermatopathologist. So I also microscopically study hair, skin, and nails. And my field primarily consists of general medical dermatology, aesthetic dermatology, surgical dermatology, dermatopathology, and I have a special interest in hair loss disorders.
Wow, that is actually very amazing. So tell us, what are some of the what does a day look like for you in your practice?
So very interesting and very busy, and not one day looks the same. So I see patients in clinical management of patients, and I also am involved in the business side of the practice. Like I said, I do some microscope work. And so my patients keep me on my toes, and I have a wonderful staff to help to assist me with that.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the various type of skin procedures or treatments that you offer in your practice.
Yeah, so some of the treatments that I offer in my practice, really trying to help patients look their very best and feel their very best, because when they look their best, they feel their best. And so we offer injectable procedures such as botulinum toxin, also known as Botox, filler injections, so injections to help different skin lines and jowls. And then we also offer through our aesthetics department different aesthetic procedures, including chemical peels, microneedling, laser procedures.
Okay.
Now, also as part of my medical dermatology practice, I do skin cancer surgery. In addition to skin cancer surgery, I'm also performing surgeries on benign lesions such as cysts and lipomas. So that's a pretty broad practice for me.
Great. And that is very interesting and good to know, because a lot of people, hear dermatologists and they kind of focus just on skincare, but you guys have a very wide range of different treatments or services, or like you say, how you can help individuals, your patients, look and feel their best. So earlier in your introduction, you talk about also with hair and nails. Just give us a little bit about what that treatment looks like or what the various treatments you offer.
Yes, so I see a lot of hair loss patients. In fact, there are many hair loss conditions that are seen in greater numbers in women of color. And so I specialize particularly in those. So scarring types of hair loss, also autoimmune hair loss. And so, and I'm happy to go in as much detail as you'd like, but there's, this is almost like a public service announcement because I see it so commonly in Black women, but there is a condition and it's called CCCA. That's probably the most common type of hair loss that I see in my practice. And so CCCA is a very long medical term, but I tell patients the name actually describes the condition and it makes sense. So the name is an acronym for central centrifugal cicatricial alopecia. Central meaning it starts in the central part of the scalp. Centrifugal implying that that area of hair loss can move from the center area of the scalp and spread out like a ring. Okay. And then cicatrix refers to scarring. And that's why it's so very important to treat early because it's a type of hair loss that can scar if it goes untreated. And alopecia just means hair loss. It doesn't mean that it's untreatable. You know, like I said, there are different prognostic factors, so different things that may alter the severity of that disease. But alopecia can be a treatable condition depending on time to treatment.
Wow. So that is actually some really good information. And do you have any staple like do's and don'ts that you would tell people? And I'm going to go through each category as far as the skin, the hair, and nails. As humans, we're all different. We have, different side effects. We grow up differently. We're in different environments. But are there any general do's and don'ts that you would advise people early on? Like, don't do this to your skin or don't do this to your hair?
So for skin, the number one thing that I would advise is sunscreen, and that's for all skin types. Because as dermatologists, like I said, we want people to look their best. That's what we specialize in. We are in the field of skincare and good and healthy skin. But it starts with prevention. And so, one of the myths that I want to dispel is that patients of color don't need sunscreen. Well, it's a myth because, yes, melanin in our skin can be protective against some sun-induced conditions like skin cancer. However, there are other things that the sun and UV radiation can do to break down the skin. It can cause discoloration, and that's one of the things that patients of color are oftentimes impacted by. So hyperpigmentations, and sun makes that worse. It can also break down collagen and elastic fibers. So that leads to wrinkling and aging of the skin. And so sunscreen is vitally important for patients of all skin types. So if that is the one thing that I want to go away with, it's that. And I tell my patients, just let it be part of your daily regimen. So you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you put on your sunscreen. You don't even consider what the weather is outside, whether it's snowing or whether it's raining, because UV comes through the clouds and it reflects off the snow and the concrete. So you just want to make sure it's just part of your daily regimen so you stay protected.
And that is some really good information because for myself, I do it a lot, use the sunscreen during the summertime, but other than that, I don't use it. So I'm going to start including that in my daily regimen of all 4 of the seasons.
Yeah, so find a moisturizer that you like that has the SPF already in it. I say my day is like, you asked me about a recount of my day. It's a tornado in my house, right? So I like to really use products that have multiple purposes. So my moisturizer has a sunscreen in it and it has antioxidants in it. So it's one product that does all of the things, right? And so you just find one that you like, SPF 30 or above, and just make that part of your daily skincare regimen.
Okay. So listen, guys, you guys heard it directly from Dr. Mercer. We all will now be including sunscreen in our daily regimen. Jessica, and just briefly, what about hair or nails, especially for, now we do have a pretty wide audience, but I do find for a lot of times women of color, sometimes we don't know early on the do's or don'ts in regards to our hair and nails. So tell us, if you have any staples, what is your advice on that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I will say about hair is that within the social media community, there's this word called protective styles. And so I consider it to be such a misnomer. And I say that because it has given a false sense of security to many patients that certain styles are protective and help their hair. But oftentimes they can be styles that contribute to different types of alopecia, such as traction alopecia. So some of these styles include braids and weaves. And so, I typically say I'm not against doing any of these styles. It's just like any other doctor would tell you, you want to do things in moderation, right? So it's not that you can't have a dessert, but don't eat, chocolate cake every single night. So Same thing with some of these styles that we've labeled as protective styles. So it doesn't mean that you should not do them, but do them in moderation. So you want to alter any tension on your hair. So if you're doing braids, you want to take those out after 4 to 6 weeks and then try a different style where you're not having tension in the same areas. So again, moderation is key when it comes to hair. And then nails, and I'm really kind of highlighting some of the trends and really how to go about doing those things safely. When it comes to nails, one of the things that I'll highlight is the light treatments to cure some of the nail products. So, and I get my nails done, and the regular manicure doesn't stay, so I've converted to SNS as a form of a manicure. But there are quite a few patients who may be allergic to acrylates. So if you notice any redness or itching of your nails, you might fall into that category. But also different gel nails involve exposure to a light to cure the nails. And so really there's a lot of controversy in that because some of that nail is very similar to the light that comes, some of those nail lights are very similar to the light that comes from a tanning bed. And so we know when it comes to tanning beds, those increase your risk of melanoma by 70 fold compared to the normal population who has not done those procedures and had that type of exposure. So, again, do things in moderation, but I certainly want to put a PSA out there about some of those hairstyles and also light procedures.
Right. So listen, ladies, we love to look good. I know we do, but we got to make sure we're doing it in moderation and in a way that we are, staying healthy and really protecting ourselves for real. And so also, Dr. Mercer, how much of what we put in our bodies or what you see with in your practice actually resonates or the word I'm looking for kind of manifest physically? How much of your practice do you actually tell patients about, don't eat this or eat this, and this will help or this will harm, even when it comes to the outer, parts of our body like the skin, the hair, and nails?
Well, I always say the skin is really just a window to everything that's going on the inside. So your skin will look its healthiest when internally you are your healthiest. So just like any of your other physicians might recommend, you want to eat a healthy, balanced diet. Again, things in moderation. So there's really nothing that I eliminate from my diet. I eat all sorts of proteins, beef, fish, chicken, pork. I eat all sorts of proteins, but again, doing those things in moderation, limiting fats and sugars and carbohydrates, drinking lots of water. So when you are your healthiest self, your skin reflects that.
Okay. Awesome. And so I know sometimes when we're getting dolled up or we're talking about hair cells, we're talking about nails, those are our outer things. But if we're not healthy on the inside, you can put makeup on all day. But when you take it off, you still want to have beautiful glowing skin. When you go take the acrylic or the gel off, you want to make sure that your nails are, just as healthy. And I think that's something that's really important for our society now, especially with so much social media that press looks. That we need to continue to remind people that it really starts from the inside out. And so I know you touched upon the sunscreen and making that a daily regimen. What are some more things as far as our skin, hair, nails that you maybe could suggest as we are preparing for the weather change? Or do you kind of feel like what you do in the winter, fall, spring, summer, it kind of stays consistent?
Well, there are some things that are consistent, but, one of the things that I'll highlight since we're talking about summer, you mentioned I'm in Georgia. So our nickname, specifically Atlanta, Hot Lanta, right? So we deal with the heat and humidity, especially as the summer approaches. And so one of the things that happens when you deal with heat and humidity is sweat. Well, what's the impact that sweat can have on our skin? So particularly the skin folds. So one of the common things that I see in my clinical practice is a condition that's called intertrigo. And intertrigo is a yeast rash that is seen more commonly in women in the skin folds. So under the breast, also under the belly, the pannus, we call it. So really trying to keep those areas as dry as we can as the heat comes. And so things that we recommend after you get out of the shower, make sure you're drying completely in those skin folds. Even if you need to use things like a warm blow dryer, not too hot, but a warm blow dryer to ensure that area is dry. There are also some antifungal powders over the counter that can be recommended for women who are very large breasted. Even using sometimes panty liners or other strips of cotton to keep that area dry so that it will absorb that excess moisture. Those are some of the things also that you want to be prepared for during the summer.
Okay, those are some really good tips and things that you, for most obviously women, we already have in the home. So that is good to know. Also, earlier you mentioned about skin cancer. So I know you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do participate in like community activities where you guys do skin screening, if that's the proper term.
Yes.
Tell us what does that all entail?
Yeah, so I do that within the community for volunteer efforts, and I do that in my private practice as well. So a full body skin check, you come into the exam room and we get you completely undressed. And I'm literally checking your skin head to toe, starting with the scalp, feeling and examining your skin, your face, your neck, your trunk, extremities, and looking for different evidence of skin cancer. So the most common types of skin cancer are basal cell and squamous cell. And so basal cell and squamous cell may present as a pink or scaly spot or a non-healing area that bleeds easily. So I tell patients those are clues and you want to be on the lookout for those types of symptoms. Okay. So the type of cancer that we worry about the most is melanoma. And so melanoma typically is an irregular dark mole. And so we use a mnemonic A, B, C, D, E. Okay. So A means when you're looking at a mole, you want to look for asymmetry. If I look at both sides of the mole, do both sides look the same or do they not? So that could be a clue to asymmetry. B is borders. So you want your moles to be nice and round, not jagged or irregular. C is color. And so color, you want moles to be a solid uniform color. So if you have a mole that's multiple colors, part of it pink, part of it brown, much darker or even much pinker than your other moles, that's a real concern and you should bring it to a dermatologist.
Okay.
Yeah. And so to complete the mnemonic, D is diameter. So you
Mm-hmm.
want that mold to be smaller than a pencil eraser. And then E is evolution. So anything new, anything changing, you want to bring it up to your dermatologist. So, and it's perfect segue. May is actually Melanoma Awareness Month. So it's a perfect opportunity for us to be discussing this. So like I said, it can be an abnormal dark mole. Very rarely they may be pink. And melanoma, I mentioned patients of color and some of the unique things that, unique considerations. Well, we don't see melanoma on the skin as often. When we do see melanoma in those patients, the most common locations are the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, and streaks in the nail. So, you want to definitely pay attention to those areas because not many people are looking at the bottom of their feet on a regular basis.
Right.
So you want to certainly be conscious of checking those areas. And if you have any dark streaks in the nail, especially a solitary, very dark streak, then that can be a real concern and you want to bring it to the attention of a dermatologist.
Wow, that is like literally amazing information. Can you give us that acronym again?
Yes, so it's called the ABCDEs of melanoma.
Okay.
Asymmetry, border, color, diameter, and evolution.
Okay. Well, again, I wish we had more time. We are definitely going to have you on again one day in the future. And maybe one of these days we'll be able to host a virtual wellness summit and have, more time for us to really go into some detail, because I think these things are so important. And this information is important to get out to the community so that people can ask questions and people could know what to look for before it actually has fully manifested. And by the time they're at their doctor, they're coming to you, things could possibly be in a further stage or in a worser stage than it could have been had they known information or knew what to pay attention for and took some more preventive steps. So tell us one more time all of your locations, and if you have any social media tags, and your information also will be definitely pinned for people to be able to contact you who are in the Atlanta area or traveling down there who maybe want to stop by and visit or make an appointment. But just give us some of your contact information, please.
Well, yes, thank you so much for having me. And I'm very happy to share. My practice is Georgia Dermatology Partners, and I am Dr. Jessica Mercer with locations in Snellville, Loganville, Brazelton, and Brookhaven, just outside of Atlanta. I'm on social media as Derm Doctor, that's Dr. Jessica Mercer.
Okay. Well, Dr. Mercer, once again, we appreciate you for taking time out of your busy day and giving us such great information. And I definitely hope to have you on and talk to you again soon. Listen, we hope you have an amazing and wonderful day. I know, like you say, your day is very busy, but we definitely, again, thank you so much for coming on today. So
thank you.
Thank you. So everyone, listen, you heard some great tips today directly from Dr. Mercer. If you're in the Atlanta area, please check her out. She gave us her social media info as well. Well, everyone, I hope you have an amazing and wonderful Wednesday. Continue to do whatever it is that you need to do to stay positive, keep yourself hydrated, keep yourself healthy, and keep your mental stability on point. Stay grounded and have a wonderful day and week.